May 19, 1536, a woman in fine silk robes steps onto a scaffold on Tower Green. She is Anne Boleyn, Queen of England, and she is about to be beheaded. But just 4 months earlier, another queen died, Catherine of Aragon, Henry VIII's first wife. Catherine had openly defied Henry for 6 long years, publicly refusing their divorce. Yet she died peacefully in her bed, still calling herself the true queen. And Anne, accused of adultery and treason. So why? Why did the king who tore apart his country's religion just to marry Anne choose the most gruesome way to discard her? Was it personal fury? Or a cold, calculating political move? The answer isn't about love or hate. It's about royal blood, a king's ego, and the military threat looming across the English Channel. To understand why one wife was protected by an empire and the other had only her silk gown, you have to see the 500-year difference between these two queens. Let's start with the woman Henry VIII never dared to harm, Catherine of Aragon. She wasn't just some noble woman. She was a Spanish infanta. Her status was inherently superior to any English lady. Her mother was Queen Isabella of Castile, her father King Ferdinand of Aragon, but her real shield had a name: Charles V. Charles wasn't just Catherine's nephew. He was the Holy Roman Emperor, ruling the largest empire in the world. If Henry dared to harm Catherine, Charles would invade England. Henry and his advisors knew it. Killing Catherine meant political and military suicide. But Catherine's power wasn't just foreign armies. She had a legal genius, Anne Boleyn could never match. When Henry demanded a divorce, claiming their marriage was invalid because she was his brother's widow, Catherine executed a brilliant move. She declared, "I am no English woman, I was born a Spaniard." If their marriage was truly invalid by Henry's own logic, then she wasn't his subject. English law had no jurisdiction over her. She was a foreign princess with the right to appeal directly to the Pope in Rome. When Henry set up a court in England to judge her, Catherine refused to attend. "I will not be judged by you," she announced. "I appealed to Rome." Henry's lawyers were furious but powerless. She had turned his own argument into an impenetrable legal shield. He couldn't legally charge her, try her, or execute her without inviting global war. Catherine's third shield was the absolute devotion of the English people. This is astounding, as the English were notoriously xenophobic. But Catherine had been in England for 24 years and embodied the perfect queen: pious, dignified, and intelligent. The peak of her popularity came in 1513. While Henry was off fighting in France, the Scots invaded. Henry had left Catherine as regent. She didn't panic. She personally organized the defense, and her forces crushed the Scots at the Battle of Flodden. The people saw her as a living saint, a national heroine. When Henry tried to divorce her, the public reaction was explosive. Henry knew that killing Catherine would mean riots, rebellion, and potential civil war, a risk he simply couldn't afford. Now, let's contrast this with the woman who had none of these protections: Anne Boleyn. Anne came from a minor noble family. She had no royal blood, no foreign army, no emperor for an uncle. Everything Anne had was a gift from Henry, and what Henry granted, Henry could easily take away. Yes, Anne made Henry wait 7 years. But her position was always precarious because it relied entirely on his favor. The moment he turned on her, the Boleyn family would fall with her. And if Catherine was a saint, Anne was seen as a national disaster. The public, in foreign courts, viewed her as the seducer, the homewrecker who destroyed a perfect marriage. They called her the king's whore and the scandal of Christendom. When Henry turned, Anne had nowhere to run. She was English, purely Henry's subject. No appeal to Rome for her. English law applied fully, and that law dictated that adultery by a queen was treason, which meant death. Anne was trapped. This brings us to the central question. Henry had quieter options to remove Anne, so why did he choose execution? He could have annulled the marriage by citing his previous affair with Anne's sister, or simply exiled her to a convent. He refused. Death was mandatory because of Henry's ego. First, his image. If Henry annulled the marriage based on his affair with Mary Boleyn, he'd have to admit he was the sinner who destroyed his first marriage out of lust. Henry could not stand being the villain. He needed to be seen as the victim, tricked by a deceitful woman. By charging Anne with treason, Henry rewrote the story. He was the virtuous king betrayed by his wife. Anne's death purified his image. Second, personal betrayal. Catherine had only challenged Henry legally, always remaining respectful of his authority as king. Anne was different. She had promised a son and failed. She argued openly with Henry and was famously proud. For a man who craved absolute control, Anne's failure and defiance felt like a deep personal betrayal. The rage against Anne was visceral and personal, completely unlike the political frustration he felt toward Catherine. And third, political necessity. By 1536, Anne was a major political liability. She clashed with the powerful Thomas Cromwell over foreign policy. Cromwell knew that to maintain his own power and appease the empire, Anne had to be eliminated. He built the case of incest and treason, outrageous charges that were perfectly believable to a court that already despised her. The difference wasn't in their defiance. Both women defied Henry. The difference was power, protection, and legal possibility. Henry could kill Anne without consequence. She was his subject. But Catherine was his royal equal, protected by an unbeatable empire. Catherine knew this, and dared them to execute her. Anne had no such advantage. When Henry's favor vanished, she was utterly defenseless. The difference was bloodline. Catherine had an empire behind her. Anne had nothing, and in Tudor England that meant everything. If this story fascinated you, let us know in the comments. Whose story affects you more, Catherine's unbreakable resolve or Anne's tragic fall? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to unlock more untold history, because the past is full of mysteries waiting to be understood.